Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to continue to look at Special Booster 1.5 and see what it has to offer on a budget, and today I'm going to be showing you a really interesting black deck. It didn't really change a whole much compared to the last time I did a budget black deck, but it does have some new and interesting tools that you could think about utilizing. So going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Kapurimon. So Kapurimon's a really nice Digitama just because it has reboot synergy, and we are going to be playing around with reboot. So it has the great inheritable ability where during your turn, while this Digimon has reboot, it gets plus 1000 DP, and this DP boost could matter, and that's why we're running it as the main Digitama. And then as far as the 5th Digitama, you could run basically any you feel like. It doesn't really matter just because the other Digitama is just in there just to be the 5th Digitama for the extra draw on the evolution. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gotsumon. So Gotsumon is pretty nice because he has the blocker ability on a rookie body, and then he does have a when attacking clause where you will lose 2 memory when you attack, but most of the time you're not really going to utilize him to attack with. You're just going to be utilizing him for the fact that he is a rookie blocker. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of ToyAgumon. So ToyAgumon is a really insane Digimon for the deck just because he gives the inheritable ability of Reboot. So we could utilize this card in combination with a whole bunch of our other cards to form some really powerful Digimon stacks. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Commandramon. So Commandramon is in here just to be that value vanilla rookie. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Chuumon. So Chuumon is in here just because he has this very powerful ability where during all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except by their tamer effects. So you run this card just to try to shut down the opponent's lines of play if they're trying to gain some memory or manipulate with the memory, and that makes Chuumon just a very powerful card. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Greymon. So this Greymon is an absolutely insane card to run in the deck just because he has this very powerful inheritable ability of during your turn, while this Digimon has Reboot, it gains jamming. So we already have a way to give a whole bunch of our Digimon Reboot, so now paired up ToyAgumon with Greymon, and we could give basically any Digimon we want jamming. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Guardromon. So Guardromon is really nice just because he is a very powerful blocker. So he does have the clause where during your turn this Digimon can't attack, but for not being able to attack, he has some slightly higher DP, and that could help wall out potential higher level Digimon, and that's just what makes him a very solid blocker for the deck. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Tankmon. So Tankmon is really only in here just because he has a evo cost of 1. So if you wanted to, you could think about running Numemon instead. But I just feel like Tankmon having some higher DP definitely makes him a better card to run overall. Just because you're not really looking to try to raw play him, you're just looking to use him as a stepping stone to evo with. And if you need to aggress with the card, the 6000 DP helps with the aggression. Next, on to the Ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Andromon. So Andromon is a really powerful Digimon for the deck because he is another Digimon with the blocker ability, but he also doesn't have any negative sides to if we want to attack with the card, and that's what makes the card pretty decent. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of MetalGreymon. So this MetalGreymon is following the ToyAgumon Greymon MetalGreymon line, and he's just enhancing more reboot synergy, where during your turn, while this Digimon has reboot, it also has security attack +1 as a very powerful inheritable ability. So with the full stack, you could give basically any Digimon reboot and jamming and security attack +1, and that's just really, really powerful to think about. And then on top of that, he just natively has the reboot ability himself. So if you wanted to, you could utilize him with just MetalGreymon to just be a reboot jammer. And that's just what makes this card very, very powerful to run, just because of all of the reboot synergy he has. And then the last 2 ultimates of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Etemon. So you could play around with the ratios between Etemon and Andromon if you want. It's just, I feel like the power boost of Andromon definitely makes him a little bit more worthwhile to run, but Etemon does have some very powerful synergy with the deck that you could think about trying to maximize and capitalize on, because he has this very powerful on-delete ability where we get to check the top 5 cards of our deck, and then we get to play 1 level 6 Digimon with Etemon in its name among them for free. So his on delete ability just allows him to just play one of our megas, and that's just really, really powerful. On top of which, he has the blocker ability himself with no downside to attacking. So he's basically fulfilling almost the exact same role as Andromon. It's just Andromon just has some slightly higher DP, making him for a little bit better of a blocker. But if you're, again, just trying to fulfill the role of just being a blocker to get out your level 6, then Etemon is definitely a very fantastic Digimon to do so with. Next, onto the Megas, I'm going to be running 4 copies of CresGarurumon. So this is probably going to be the most expensive card in the deck, just because he is an SR and he currently is valued at around $3-4. So if you could pick him up for about $3-4, if not a little bit cheaper, then that just is going to make this deck an absolutely really powerful deck. Otherwise, you could just fall back and use High Andromon, just because High Andromon is like the only other Mega we have on a budget. But CresGarurumon being the most budget-friendly Mega with some very powerful synergy with the deck definitely makes him a really good card to want to run. So the first big thing to note about the card is he does have the Reboot ability, so we don't necessarily need to see ToyAgumon in the evolution source if we want to make our Mega as powerful as possible, because he already has that Reboot ability built in. And then on top of which, he has a very nice when Digivolving ability, where you get to check out 1 card from the top of your deck for each Digimon the opponent has in play, and then we get to play a black or red Digimon from among them that's level 5 or less for free. So he's just trying to capitalize the fact that your opponent might be having a board, and if they have a board, then you get more possible targets to pick from. But considering the majority of our deck is going to be level 5 or less in terms of Digimon, definitely means that his ability is going to go off to just spawn free Digimon, and that's just really, really powerful. And then again, on top of his Reboot synergy. And then the other Mega of the deck is going to be 4 copies of MetalEtemon. So we are playing MetalEtemon just because he is one of the more powerful Megas that we have on a budget, on top of which now we finally have the Etemon synergy. So we could think about playing MetalEtemon off of Etemon, and that's just really, really powerful. But MetalEtemon himself is just a really fantastic Digimon, just because whether you stack him up or you just have him be played off of Etemon, he's still doing some very powerful things where during your turn, this Digimon can't be blocked by your opponent's Digimon. So he's really good at helping close out the games, just because they can't block him. And then he has another ability where during the opponent's turn, this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP, making it even harder for the opponent to clear him. And then if you do end up forming a really powerful stack with him, then he could be an absolute menace and a nightmare to try to deal with. Next, onto the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Infinity Cannon. So Infinity Cannon is basically acting as our removal option for the deck, where its main ability is just de-digivolving 4 on one of your opponent's Digimon. So more often than not, this is just going to reduce them to a level 3. And that's just very, very powerful, just because we are running a lot of blockers, so we could reduce the threatening Digimon down to a lower level, and then not really have to worry about it because we have so many blockers. And then the last option card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Breath of the Gods. So Breath of the Gods is a very fantastic option card for us to be running because it has the powerful main ability of this Digimon gets Reboot. So just giving our Digimon Reboot turns all of our Digimon synergies online. And then on top of that, it has the added bonus of this Digimon can't have its DP reduced or be returned to its owner's hand or deck. So not only is it giving our Digimon Reboot, but it's also giving them some forms of protection, making it even harder for the opponent to deal with. So this is really fantastic paired up with MetalEtemon, especially if he's played off of Etemon because he won't have any other abilities. So you could be like Breath of the Gods and then make him even harder for the opponent to deal with. And then on top of all of that, it has this really powerful security ability where your opponent's Digimon can't attack a player till the end of the turn. So basically, this will just protect the rest of your security. If they have a really powerful board state, then it just stops them from attacking into the rest of your security. So that way you could buy enough time to try to come up with a way to win or counter. And then the last card of the deck is going to be the only tamer of the deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Joe. So Joe is a really nice tamer for the deck because he has this great ability where at the start of your turn, if you have a Digimon with blocker in play, then you get to gain 1 memory. So black isn't the most memory efficient of colors, so having a really decent tamer to help fix our memory definitely is really, really nice. And then he just has your basic tamer ability for the security effect of being able to play him for free, but he's already a pretty efficient tamer, only costing 2, which makes him a very good tamer to want to run, especially since we already are going to be playing with a whole bunch of blockers anyway. And then depending on the types of synergies and your own personal budget, there's still just a ton of room for flexibility on how you could change and upgrade the deck. So you could think about running Sukamon if you really wanted to, just because Sukamon has this great on-delete ability where you get to check the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you get to play 1 Chuumon among them for free, and then the rest of the cards go to the bottom. So if you really just want to run Sukamon just because you're already playing Chuumon, then you're more than welcome on doing so. You could also think about running Garurumon. So Garurumon being a security Digimon means that when he's checked in your security at the end of that security battle, then you get to play this card for free, and just having a surprise body on board just means so much because you could use it to Digivolve up with, or you could use it to start aggroing with. You could also think about running MetalMamamon, just because MetalMamamon is nice because he has the reboot ability innately, so he's kind of filling that similar role to what MetalGreymon is doing, except he doesn't have any inheritable abilities, but he does have a nice when Digivolving ability where you get to return 1 level 7 Digimon with Virus in its attribute from your trash into your hand, and that's just pretty good considering almost all of the level 7s you'd want to play are going to be Virus attributes. You could also think about utilizing Machinedramon. So Machinedramon is just really great because he is a mega level blocker, and then he also has a nice on-play ability to de-Digivolve 2 on 2 of your opponent's Digimon. So he's just a generically decent card you could think about splashing in. Then if you do want to splurge a little bit more and go heavier on the black blockers theme, then Craniumon is definitely another really decent card just because he is another mega level with the blocker ability. And then he has this really powerful ability where during all turns, your Digimon with blocker can't be deleted by the opponent's card effects. So they still are vulnerable to some other things, they just can't be deleted by card effects, which is still pretty good considering it's a nice form of protection, and it's not like Craniumon is the most expensive card that you could think about picking up. If you are playing this whole level 7 or black blockers theme, you could still think about running Volcanic Dramon, just because if you're playing black blockers, you're going to be trying to build up a whole wall, and then if the opponent's not really going to try to attack, then you could just slam down Volcanic Dramon to just wipe out all of their low-level Digimon, just because he has this nice on-play ability where we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less, and then he just naturally has security attack +1, so even after you play him, he's still going to have some relatively powerful pressure onto the opponent's security. Then if you want to splurge a little bit more, you could also think about utilizing BlitzGreymon. So BlitzGreymon's really unique just because he could Digivolve off of red or black, which makes him really, really powerful because you could run him in multiple different decks and do multiple different things with him. And then on top of which he has the piercing ability innately. So imagine a reboot jamming security attack +1 piercer, and that's just a very powerful stack to be thinking about because that's just a whole bunch of keywords on one Digimon. And then he also has this very powerful when Digivolving ability where you get to de-Digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon. So Blitz is just a very fantastic card to run for the deck overall. Even though he's not black, he could still synergize and work with the deck. Then if you wanted a memory fixing tamer, you could possibly run Tankmon. So this card did increase in price a little bit. That's why I was hesitant on putting it in the deck because, again, the whole point is to try to keep the cost down as much as you possibly can while trying to have a very powerful and efficient deck. But Tankmon is definitely still a very powerful tamer that you definitely would want to run, just because he's a memory fixing tamer and he has this nice added bonus where during the opponent's turn, all of your black Digimon get plus 1000 DP, which makes it harder for the opponent to try to clear through your blockers or attack into your rested Digimon. And then another possible option card you could think about running is Beast Cyclone. So Beast Cyclone is a very powerful option card because it has this nice main ability where all of your Digimon with blocker or reboot gain security attack +1. So if you just have a field of blockers and reboot cards, then they're just going to hit the opponent's security even more. And just that level of pressure could help close out games really, really quickly. And then it has this nice added security ability of being able to add itself to your hand, so that way you could figure out when you want to play it if it's checked in your security. And then because we are playing black, if you really wanted to like splurge, you could think about running some level 7s, just because black has access to the most amount of level 7s in the game. So you have Omnimon Alter S, you have Millenniumon, you have Ragnalordmon, and then you have Kakkinmon as a good card to act as level 7 synergy. Then you have the whole Ragnalordmon line in black, with the Guardromon stuff to act as level 7 synergy. So you could shift the deck more towards that if you really felt like it. But any of the level 7s are still very powerful to run if you wanted to run them. But this should be a relatively affordable deck outside of the CresGarurumon being the most expensive card in the deck. But outside of that, like I said, the whole point is to try to keep the cost down as much as possible while still having a very powerful and effective deck. And even though the core to black hasn't really changed from 1.0 to 1.5, you still just get a little bit of better synergy and better interactions, and you get a little bit more flexibility in terms of the types of cards that you want to play and what you really are trying to gain out of the deck. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, I'll have the deck list down in the description below, and down in the description below is also going to be my TCG Player affiliate link. So when you use that link to purchase cards on TCG Player, some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. And as always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.